Welcome all to BACnet 101, Introduction to BACnet. I do appreciate everyone taking their time out this morning and coming here. I know the show's busy, everyone's got their agendas, a lot to see, a lot to do. So I really do appreciate, I truly appreciate all of you guys and gals taking the time and being here. My name is Edward Tom. I am with Yaskawa America. I am a product manager over there, been there for close to 20 years now. But I have been with the automation industry for close to, I'll say about 25 years. So if you do the math, some would say I've probably been doing this since I was about 10 from this. So again, do appreciate everyone coming in here, so as some fell in. To get started, I was thinking about this. I have done this presentation years past, and one thing kind of clicked with me as I watched people put puzzles together. And I kind of thought, well, how many people out there, and feel free to raise your hands, because I know when I first started my BACnet journey, this is what it looked like to me. It was like a puzzle. I would hear different terms. I would hear people talk about BACnet, then there were objects, MSTP. Recently, I'll talk a little bit about BACnet SC. So how many feel like it is like a puzzle at times, and you're trying to, awesome, the brave folks, appreciate it. I do appreciate that. So it is a lot sometimes to overcome. So what I want to try to do is to help out a little bit. I'm hoping that, like puzzles, hopefully be able to start and create those little edge pieces so you get that nice start of that puzzle, and then be able to start filling that in. What I will tell you is I probably won't be able to complete that puzzle for you. I'm really hoping to get you that start and be able to get you not just a better understanding, hopefully a better understanding than when you first walked in, but also be able to direct you to resources so that some of the areas that you want to learn more of, you'll be able to go find some of those resources. One is certainly going to be, and I'll touch on this later, we have the BACnet Institute, which houses a lot of online learning classes. BACnet International has a booth down here, so that's who I'm doing this on behalf of. They also will be able to answer questions. So if you've got more questions later and you want to talk to someone, whether it be me after this presentation, or as you're walking the show and say, hey, you know, I'm thinking of something, and you happen to be walking by the BACnet booth, please stop by, ask us any questions that you might have on there. So the way I'm going to try and fill in some of these puzzles, or at least help you build some of that and explain and show you what some of these puzzle pieces are, is that I want to be able to, after this presentation, help you be able to explain the purpose of BACnet. This way, when you start hearing people mention BACnet, or if you're a BACnet developer or anyone's asking you for BACnet, you'll be able to get a good understanding of, oh, this is what they're looking for, this is the reason they're looking for it. And then also list 5 benefits and uses for BACnet, because people are going to be asking for it more and more, and I'll show that. So I'm going to achieve that by going over what is BACnet. So I'm going to do a little bit of a history of BACnet, why people have been choosing BACnet. So I mentioned it is a growing network, so why people are starting to choose it, why people are starting to use it. A little bit of how BACnet works. This isn't going to be in depth of, hey, this is how the message is sent, this is how it's sent. Some of the basics that you're going to hear in some way, shape, or form. So if you're a building manager or you're a controls person, you might hear certain aspects of things to help you that people are going to be asking for. So I want to help you develop, at least build that foundation so that when someone does ask for it, you're like, that's what they're wanting. This is what we can do for them. Or if there's additional questions, you'll be able to go, you know what? I know what you're looking for. Let me go look that up for you, or be able to help you out. And an additional couple slides of what else do you need to know. There's going to be certainly additional bits of information for you to know that we want to be able to point you also to different resources as well. So first is, what is BACnet? So if I take it for just what it's worth, just the name itself, it is an acronym. It's a Building Automation Control Network. And what that ultimately kind of breaks down to is that it's an open communication protocol. That's what its most basic definition is going to be. And the way I like to break it down is that definition is that each part of it does mean something about the network. One, the protocol portion is just a set of rules, procedure. So if we didn't have any types of rules or procedures and everyone did everything all however they wanted to, you're probably not going to be able to communicate very well. If I decided to start, say, with a BACnet 101 that actually started with the depths of how BACnet is written and all the intricacies of it, I think I'd probably lose most of the room. I'm not going to say all the room, but probably most of the room. I'd probably lose myself as well, because I probably wouldn't be able to do that. Now, the second is it's a communication. So it's a method of exchanging information, whether it be if I was talking to someone directly and just saying, hey, having a nice conversation, or would be another way of communicating, me just being up here presenting and be able to pass on information to everyone. So I need to be able to define that. But the last one here, to me, is probably, I want to say the most important thing about BACnet. The whole open portion. It's available to anyone. It's a protocol that is regulated by or managed by an organization, ASHRAE, and they're the ones that help maintain that specification. But if you're someone who's building that or a manufacturer that wants to implement BACnet, you don't have to go fill out an application and then beg and plead and say, hey, I want to be able to do this. Can you please approve me so that I can do this? There's none of that. It's you go out, you purchase a spec, and then you can take a look at it and start running through and trying to implement that. So that's what's nice. That's been one of the nice things about BACnet, is that you're not begging and pleading for that. And that's also one of the reasons why it's grown in its popularity. So why BACnet? Why are people choosing it? Why are people wanting to use it? So I equate BACnet, and again, we're talking about communication, right? So I equate it kind of to like language. So for those that have been around, there was a lot of other different protocols. If people have heard of some of the competitive ones, Apogee, LineWorks, Metasys, all of that. A lot of that, and there's also some other ones that were floating around. Well, it's kind of like, hey, if I were to switch up the language on you right now and change it to Spanish, how many people would start understanding that? Or perhaps if I change it to Chinese, how many people would then in this room start understanding that? Or Japanese? It's just a plethora of different things, and we want to get it so that we have a nice basis to be able to communicate. Because if I were to do this into another language, a lot of you would probably just leave the room and be like, I have no clue what he's saying, I'll come back later. And then maybe someone else could give this in the language that I prefer at that moment. So that was one of the things that BACnet was trying to do. Let's get that so that we can get it so that everything can communicate on an even level on there. So that, in its essence, was a solution to a problem. Because when I mentioned all the other communication protocols out there, the LineWorks, the Apogees, the Metasys, all of those that were out there, the intention there was, hey, let's get it so that it's more unified. Let's get all these devices so that they're talking one language and they can all talk together and work together. So on the journey of creating BACnet, the people that started this up said, okay, we have some rules ourselves that we want BACnet to maintain. We want it to be able to do these things. One was backwards compatibility. How many people, by show of hands, have equipment out there that's probably been installed for at least 5 years? Good number. 10 years. Still some. 15 years. Wow, good number. 20. Okay, I'm stopping at 20. But if you were as I looked across the room, a good number of hands gone up. And the reason is that we wanted so that the ones that had their hands up, that had their equipment running for 20 years, we don't want someone to say, oh, you know what, you got to rip that piece of equipment out. It's not going to work with the new BACnet the new BACnet revision. That wasn't the idea. If it's running, we want you to be able to still continue running. Even if we add a new air handler somewhere else, or someone comes up with a new controller, the idea wasn't rip up and gut, put all new. Let's get it so that you can put that on with everything else. BACnet was also intended for some of the local control. So it wasn't intended to be an all-in-one. And what I mean by that is that it wasn't designed to say, look, you're only going to run BACnet, you're going to use this only, that's it. Some people may choose to do that, but there was still the flexibility of saying, look, we know things happen. So we want you to be able to have the ability so that if something does happen, you can still run it locally on that machine. And it's all by it's usually by design.